Hi, I'm Dylan from Velocity Tech Solutions. Today I'm going to be doing an overview on the System Services section of the 11th Gen Dell servers. You'll notice on post, you'll get a little sign that says press F10 for System Services. We'll hit that. It usually takes about 2 to 3 minutes for it to boot into the next screen. You'll just kind of have to let it go and bear with us on this. Alright, so now that we're at the main section, you'll see there's a few different tabs on the left-hand side. We're going to start out by kind of going over the lifecycle log. This essentially keeps a history of anything that's kind of happened to the machine. It's similar to the error log that you can view inside of the BMC. So we'll let this load. It usually takes about 30 seconds to a minute to get into this. Alright, so now that we're inside of the lifecycle log, you can kind of see it pretty much keeps a record of anything that's been added or removed to your server. So you can see if maybe you've added new RAM, it'll pretty much tell you where it's been added, how much it is. So it's a pretty comprehensive list of everything that's going on in there. And it can be pretty helpful for you. Going back, you can also export the lifecycle log. So if you wanted to, say, keep a file on your computer, just to kind of have an idea of what's happened with your server, you can do that. Or you can also add your own notes to the lifecycle log. So you can say something special that you added, you can make that note, and it should show up inside the lifecycle log as well. The next section we're going to go into is the hardware configuration. This essentially has all of the configuration for, say, your DRAC, your RAID, your NICs, and it's all kind of in a simple setup as opposed to going through the utility. So it makes it a bit simpler for people. Once again, it takes about a minute to load into each section, so we'll let this go. Alright, so you'll see it kind of just gives you some basic configuration, which you can do here. You can, for example, inside the DRAC configuration, so if you have enterprise DRAC, you can select if it's a dedicated or shared. You go next, and you'll see it kind of just goes over all of the information in a rather simple to use format, as opposed to just kind of lines of data that you'd see inside the BMC. So this is essentially how it is set up for the RAID and the system time and the BIOS settings as well. So that's pretty straightforward there. We're going to go back again. Alright, so the next thing we're going to be looking at is the OS deployment. We're not going to click it since we don't have an OS to install right now, but essentially what this does is it allows you to preload your drivers and software for whatever OS you have. Usually it's going to be Windows, obviously. So essentially you would run this, you'd kind of go through the setup, it'll then prompt you to put in your Windows disk, and then it should automatically install all of the essential drivers for your machine, so you don't have to go through one by one after you've installed your OS. The last thing that we're going to go over is the hardware diagnostics. If you've ever run the Dell diagnostic disk, this is essentially that, except it's built into your server. So we're going to load this up. Again, unfortunately, it's going to take a little bit of time. We let this go through. Now, once it's fully loaded, there's two sections that you can go to. There is the diagnostics or MP memory. For diagnostics, we'll load into here. Takes another little bit of time for it to load all of your drivers. And here you can run, say, express or extended tests. That just kind of goes through all of the hardware on your machine. The extended test does a longer run, whereas the express test, it does quick tests and everything. You can also go to custom tests, where you can manually select any piece of hardware, essentially, and then you can select quick tests, non-interactive tests, continue on failure, so you can pretty much just run it, walk away, and let it do its thing. So we'll exit out of here, and last thing, we'll go to the memory test, which is the MP memory. So once this loads up, it's a pretty straightforward application. There's an express test which just runs one run of the basic test. There's also then the custom, which we're going to look through right now, where you can manually select what tests you do. normally comes preset with the ones that really matter. You can do these. They take quite a bit longer to run through, so it's not really recommended unless you're really certain there's something wrong with your memory. Then lastly, this last section, you can select the amount of loops for the test. So you could say set it for 0 and it will loop forever until a failure. Or you can set it for 1, 2, 10. It'll do however many you want. It will run through without you being there. And if it catches a failure, it'll pick up an error and it'll display it on the screen. That's pretty much the gist of the system services on these servers. I think that's it. Anyways, have a great day. Bye.